Welcome to Chooch's chat room as we get ready right here at 64 South Grove. What a time we're having here on a winter night. We have got a special guest coming away. He's wowed him for a couple of singing moments right here at Chooch, and you'll be back here on January 25th.
That's correct.
The legend of Mark McConnell. Mark, how are you?
Very good. How are you? And thank you for having me here. I appreciate this.
You've got an incredible show business career that co-owner Mike says, he goes like this to me and says, man, he's done everything, Jeff. Not that you haven't, but he says, he's done everything, Jeff. You beginning in humble California, where you grew up, in the state of, you began your performance at what age?
Started playing professionally as far as making my first paycheck at it at 13 years old.
Wow.
With the Ventura Symphony on classical violin.
The Ventura Highway area?
Ventura, California is the town I grew up in from 3 years old to after high school. And so I grew up as a classical violinist, and now I'm a guitarist, made a living many years as a guitarist, but because guitar was for fun and classical violin was more at that age, more of the impression and more what I wanted to do.
Sophistication, yeah.
Yeah, well, I was pretty lucky to be able to do that, but it takes a lot of practicing and a lot of work.
That's great. You had your first paying gig at age 13, is that right?
Yes.
What'd you do?
Playing in the symphony.
And don't say bust these tables.
No,
yeah, that was it.
Violin.
All right, violin. That was your Jack Benny, isn't it?
I was in one of the last two stands in the second violins, and sat next to the conductor of the symphony's son, who also played violin. Also, he was a year older than me, and so that was the first time either one of us actually made a paycheck. And I ended up forming the band Handpicked with him years later.
Wow.
He ended up forming it and adding me also. So.
We're charting the career of Mark McConnell. We're going to find out how he arrived here in Elgin, but we'll say that this will be like a Paul Harvey story. You know, that's the rest of the story. Hello, America. We'll find it out in just a couple of moments. Then what happened after age 13 to you, young man?
Well, went through high school, and afterwards I formed a band with my friends who I mentioned, one, Phil, who played violin, and then I played guitar in this band, and we had a bass player who grew up across the street from Phil.
Oh, nice.
And we put together a three-piece band that did, at the time, was bluegrass oriented, but also Eagles, also, you know, just acoustic guitar California sounds.
Yeah.
But because of the violin and Bob also, the bass player, also played banjo, we could alternate and do different styles.
Get a little Jerry Van Dyke in there as well from time
well,
to time.
now he was a four-string banjo player.
Sorry.
If you're going to correlate it, it'd be more like a Steve Martin.
No, Steve Martin. Who
played five-string banjo rather than the four-string.
Fair enough. We are banjo experts here. We'll give ourselves credits for that now. Then what happened, young man, after high school?
Well, after high school and after we formed this band, we started playing around and traveling around, and we got locked in doing a theme park.
Ooh.
So we started with a theme park called Magic Mountain in California, which is run by Six Flags now, but it wasn't at the time. And while we were doing that, we met other musicians, and eventually the next year we were picked up by the Disney Company.
Wow, the Disney Company.
So they picked us up in 1979.
That's great.
And that's a wonderful training ground for a band. We were doing 3 people, so it was bass, guitar, and violin, and everybody played 3 or more instruments. So we could switch instruments and switch off who played and do bluegrass, or do what we ended up doing was cowboy music for Frontierland, doing the Sons of the Pioneers. The old Western swing, Bob Wills, traditional cowboy music rather than country Western.
Yeah.
And one of our lucky chances was getting to back up Roy Rogers a few times before he passed. Yeah.
Was Trigger in the area, or is Trigger gone?
He was already in the museum stuff.
Oh my! Hey, kids, cover your ears on that.
Yeah.
Enjoy your pizza. Sorry, that Trigger was stuffed.
But the idea that one of the things with Disney that it gave us, we were doing 6 days a week, 8 shows a day.
Oh, that's great.
And
you learn a lot.
You get so much better because you can hone your craft watching the audience reaction, and you can change it up the next time you do it.
Great.
So as you learn new material, you can rotate it, you can do this. Now with most stages, you tend to time to prepare, and then you perform. With theme park and with industrial music, or what we used to call it, was you perform with as little preparation as possible.
Fair enough. That's how our own Jeremy Hayes does it. He just performs.
Well, but just that idea that
but
it does help
you're learning
tooling. You can't get better than by doing anything but playing. I mean, that's the ideal way. So in the process, the band became very proficient in what we did. We ended up being sent on tours to different places, and things just rolled along, and we ended up playing all 50 states and 17 countries.
That's great. special edition of Chooch's Chat Room. Mark McConnell, this is your life. Yes. And after that, Disney, though, you've got all kinds of Disney stories, don't you? Don't you walk when the kids gather around you and say, Mark, Mark, Mark. What day is it? Tell me a Disney story.
Well, if it's a kid, I generally don't tell the stories.
Because they don't know who Walt is anymore.
Well, it's not just that, as most of the stories that people want to hear are the things that cast members don't say.
Yeah.
You know, and it's amusing things that happen backstage. Like, I think the very first time we were going to rehearsal, and it was we were rehearsing in the actual theater, but it was midnight to 8 in the morning was our rehearsal, because it had to be after everything was closed.
Sure.
So on one of our breaks, we were on Main Street, and all the lights are on, the music's going, and everything, and the guy's washing it down, and you're the only person other than him on the whole thing.
Wow.
That's just an amazing feeling.
It is.
Sure enough, later on, I'm leaving that night, and at 8 in the morning, I see two guys with a latex mermaid obviously from the Lagoon 20,000 Leagues ride under their shoulders. They run by me and they throw it in the bushes and run away. I said, "Don't touch that." So at that point, I don't know what to say. It's my first night of rehearsals.
And they charge you $25.95 admittance to the park at that same time.
For us, when I started with Disney in late 70s, it was $14.95 with a ticket book.
Well, of course. I know it's a few more dollars now, but still exciting.
It's well over 50 if I understand correctly.
Yeah, and if you win a Super Bowl, you have to go again. So we're going to have you suit up. So
that would be interesting.
Mark McConnell, as we talk here at Chooch's. Chooch's, of course. Hey, you enjoy all the great Chooch's food here, don't you?
Absolutely.
What's your favorite?
I have not had. It's hard to say because I haven't had a thing here that I didn't like. So I just anything that they have, I just think the quality is done right, and the atmosphere. They've put so much time and energy into the renovation that they've done.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
And I guess they just won an award for the renovation, isn't that?
They won a mayor's award. Yeah, they won a good award. Yes, they did.
You know, I heard that, and I mean, this
and
is
the DNA Downtown Neighborhood Association gave an award as well.
Well, you can see why. I mean, they have a wonderful venue, and then the outside area for this summer. I really am looking forward to coming out and seeing what they have involved here.
I think you're going to be spotlighted.
They've been generous with me and offering me time to play, and I really enjoy the venue.
And before we get out of here on this one, you're going to play a little bit as well, because you'll be here January 25th of 2014. Yes. We'll be the first to say 2014 out loud this particular calendar season.
Yes.
All right, Mark, where was This Is Your Life? If you joined us late, feel free to just back the tape up here on social media and pick us up. Now where? From the Disney? Do you have any more Disney studios?
Sure.
Studios as well?
Disney stories, sure. We you never know what you're going to see. So I remember standing out there with the guys, and you lull yourself into things. You do the same routines, and you make people smile, and you take pictures, lots of pictures.
Yeah.
So I'm standing there playing, and I see a guy in front, and he's got his kid on his shoulders, and they're just enjoying themselves, and full beard and bushy hair, and I look down at the T-shirt, and I look up at him, and I look down at the T-shirt, and it's the same person. It's Ian Anderson from Jethro Tull, who I remember as a kid, of course.
Yeah.
So I just, as I'm playing, I kind of point to the shirt and point to him, and he kind of nods. And after the song, he stayed to the end of the set, and we got to talk. And so you see a lot of people that way.
That's great. And that's going to be our wardrobe here at Chooch's. Picture here, picture there. That's what we'll do. I like that. I have one Disney story. For the local story, of course, the Orlando base. For Halloween 2003, the Kane County Eagles, a semi-pro team, they were playing the championship. You know, down there, that's where the Atlanta Braves play. Spring training. There's tons of field. But we get down there, we're doing it for the local radio station, WRMN. Kane County takes on some other team for the semi-pro Super Bowl of that, if you will. And we're already at Disneyland.
Right.
And we get down there, and they're looking at me, I don't know who you are. You can't broadcast. So they're talking, they go to the corner and say, can we let this kid, I was a kid then, of course, I was young. So can we let this kid broadcast? And then they turned to me and said, in the Disney tradition, we'll let you do the game. And so we did the game.
That's a good story.
An edict from Disney. That's my only Disney story. Please remain seated there, co-owner Mike. Halloween 2003. Stayed in a nice hotel, and it was pleasant. Orlando. All right. Now, where else can we forget about that story? Where else can we pick you up here on your story? Now, you spent some time in Japan. Can you say something to the Chooch chat room camera there for something in Japan?
Sure. すいません、私はマークです。よろしくお願いします。お楽しみにください。
I translated for you right
I said,
there.
excuse me, my name is Mark. Please enjoy yourself. I hope you have a wonderful time.
Well, why don't you say the co-owners here at Chooch's are two handsome men. Say that.
Shacho no, Chuchis no shacho no kakui onisan.
We said
Which
that over
means
lunch.
cute guys, not men.
Oh, cute guy. Wow.
No, just the idea.
Cute
I didn't
guy.
want. I
Well,
wanted
they play younger on
I wanted to
Facebook.
build them as young. See, I'm trying to help here. You know.
All
I
right.
understand how that works.
Cute guys. Groovy. That was great. So in Japan, and for 17 years, that was great. You lived in a hotel, is that right?
Well, I lived the first 5 years. I lived at the Sheraton Grand Hotel, which was across the street from Tokyo Disneyland.
Well, that's great beauty.
And then I changed jobs, worked for an Italian restaurant that was a 5-star Italian restaurant and flower shop combined.
Wow.
And so I did that for 5 years.
We could do that here, couldn't we? Choo-choo's in a flower shop,
Well,
like Japan.
I don't recommend it.
All right.
In fact, over here, I think there's health issues they complain about.
Too many
But
petals.
I got an apartment there at that point in time, in about, again, 5 minutes from Tokyo Disneyland. And I stayed at that job for about 5 years. And then the last 7 years I was there, I was living in the Hilton Narita at the airport, the Tokyo International Airport in Narita. And I lived on the concierge floor in the hotel for 7 years.
Wow. Wow.
So, yeah, well, you know, it's nice living in a hotel. There's a lot of advantages, but there are disadvantages that you don't think about all the time.
Such as, tell us, 'cause
you can't cook a meal.
Oh, my heavens.
And if you think you've been there at 1 week and had everything on the menu, imagine 1 year.
Yeah, you've had everything
2
timed
years.
over. You're just waiting
7
for that,
years.
that reboot. But then there's no food for 6 months.
But again, you know, when you go down there and every morning you can have Eggs Benedict if
That's
you want
right.
it. But every day for 7 years, you can't have Eggs
I
Benedict.
think Jeremy Hayes and I could get used to that adjustment, couldn't we? Yes, I'm getting a nod for that. Mark McConnell with us here. Now, Mark, before we find out how you got to Elgin, you are an instructor as well, are you not?
Yes, I've started teaching. I haven't been a teacher because I was always out. I used to, when I toured, I was out 300 days a year, and then I found it was easier to find house gigs that were more appropriate, and I'm better at that kind of situation because you create friends, you create your audience, you nurture that audience. And the reason I lasted a long time in these jobs with my band as a solo is because we increased revenue. We got people to come in. I couldn't get them to come in the first time all the time, but I could get them to come back. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm completely new to the Midwest, 17 years living out of the country. So I'm kind of a fish out of water. And my son offered to allow me to spend time with him and stay at his place. And that's why I'm here in Elgin. And so I'm trying to figure out what the next step is. And I just want to meet people and play music and enjoy myself.
Now, if we wanted to get a hold of you for instruction, how would we do that?
The email's the best way, and it's Mark, M-A-R-K, M-C-C, 1956 at hotmail.com.
All right, we won't ask what year you were born.
I just told you.
So how did well, I guess the obvious question would be, how did your son get to Elgin?
A friend of his, and Mike was in the service. He did 2 tours in Iraq and then one in between over in Germany. And one of his friends who was in the service with him was from here. And so they ended up working together at the same place when he came back.
Great. So how long has he been in Elgin?
I think 3 or 4 years, if I remember correctly.
And you were just ready to get off the road, and you knew Elgin. You probably knew Elgin from the watch factory days. Did
You know what? I didn't know exactly where it was, but I do remember the name from watches, and I do have Illinois friends, Illinois boys, as we used to call them.
Yeah.
And so I knew it was somewhere outside of Chicago. I just didn't have a great idea.
We were once also the dairy capital of the world. Did you know that when you have a stick of butter east of Denver, it's called the Elgin butter stick? That size butter was created right here in Elgin, Illinois, when we were the dairy capital.
See, now this is why you host this thing.
Well, that and no one else shows up. That's why I put Jeff on again. We had open tryouts. But no, that's great. And Elgin's had a lot of great history, as you know. You realize that, don't you? The great history?
Yes, and I don't drive. Haven't driven since I had moved overseas. And so when I came here last summer, I was walking everywhere. I'm trying to exercise and do things. I love the houses. I mean, I grew up in Southern California where there's not a whole lot of interesting architecture. There is, and I don't mean to discount it like that, but here I just love the Victorian aspects of it and the different
spring in those houses there.
Absolutely,
a lot of that's
towards the older part of town. I absolutely love that. So So to me, that's kind of neat.
That's great. That's great. You'd realize that because our housing stock's quite well known. We almost lead the league in the Sears houses you put together. We're not the tops in Illinois, but also the big houses, like you say, the influence of the watch factory.
Well,
also.
all of these, I mean, the old downtown houses, I know, again, I'm sure that they're expensive to fix up and things, but what a wonderful thing, gift of love to be able to purchase one of those and really set it back to original.
Yeah, it's great. No, that's great stuff. And Victoria Casino, you probably heard of that.
I haven't been.
Queen Victoria.
I'm
It's been around
unfortunately,
for 19 years now.
Unfortunately, I'm not a gambler.
That's
but,
all right.
But you know what I like? I love casinos because they always have live entertainment.
That's
and
right.
Anybody that had the last job I had in the U.S. was in '95, and that was at the Hyatt Regency in Lake Tahoe in Incline Village, and we played half the night in the restaurant and half the night in the casino.
Wow.
So, and I also played back in Vegas on the Strip in the
course.
old days in the late '70s prior to going to Disney. So.
Yeah, it's
But if I win, I'm anxious. If I lose, I'm anxious. I'm not a happy gambler.
We're anxious all the time, so it doesn't make any difference. Well, and the casino closes for 2 hours. That's rehearsal time for you every day.
There you go.
So maybe you can do that.
There you go.
All right, you have brought, how much time do we have, Jeremy? Are we ready for a performance? We'll keep talking? All right, well, and so.
I think I ran out.
No, you never run out of stories.
President Reagan.
Oh, yes. Now, if I would do this voice, well, Mark McConnell, I love your ability to entertain Nancy. And would you play a song for us? You have a Ronald Reagan story, do you not?
I grew up in Ventura, California.
Oh,
And his ranch was above Santa Barbara,
Yeah.
California. And every year there's a group of businessmen called the Rancheros Visitadores. And they're all well-to-do businessmen, and they have a 1-week horseback ride.
wow, that's great.
And so we were hired by one of these groups that are involved with this to play their campfires every night and their parties every night.
Yeah.
So one of the times we were on the Reagan Ranch,
Yeah.
and he came out.
Wow.
So he heard the band doing cowboy material,
Oh, he loved that.
and
I was in the Santa Fe Trail, he would tell you.
we got
with
a
your
call.
friend.
We got a call later on that he was doing a fundraiser and asked us to come and do the fundraiser, and I got to talk to him for a little bit, and I tell you what, he made you feel that you were the most important thing to him at that point in time. He had that gift.
That's great. That's
So
great.
I feel very fortunate to have had that opportunity.
He's a grad of Eureka College here in the Illinois area.
Well, there you
we're
go.
Proud of that. He actually did a couple of Cub games over there. Remember when he's the president, Harry Carey and Ronald Reagan are in the booth. Can you imagine that?
I remember. I heard of Harry Carey, and I was from California, so I even knew who that name
That's
was
great.
at that point.
He's legendary. So,
Oh, yeah.
So good, the Ronald Reagan story. Let's see if any other stories, Cohen or Mike? All right, well, we like that. Reagan stories are always good because his folksiness comes out. And of course, in Dixon, just around the corner, they've got the Reagan home.
Oh, okay.
You can go visit the Reagan home because he lived everywhere. He lived in Monmouth. He lived all over. They moved a lot.
Yeah.
With Ronald Reagan. Dad was always on the road, and that's where it was, just like you, young Mark. So you've settled now here, and you love Elgin. Is that right, all the way?
I'm trying to find a new niche. For so many years, that's exactly what I did. I performed the last job. I did 7 years in a row, 6 nights a week, 5 to 8 shows a night, and never took a break, didn't take a vacation.
Show business, we like that.
Well, but now that I'm
Somebody
back,
might take over your spot if you go away. You know how that
not
works.
just that, it's just that there's something comfort. I enjoy doing it. Now, while my situation here is I haven't found a situation that is appropriate for what I want to do, and so I have to create a new niche for myself.
Ah.
And I'm hoping that I can find a niche in this area to where I can make a living and feel comfortable with what I'm doing, and if not, I can go back on tour. But personally, I'd rather find something around here, and I appreciate having the opportunity to perform here for the Chooches.
January 25th, 2014,
and
right
anyone
there,
who wants to
Saturday.
come out, a good way to keep me here is to come out and
All
support
right.
me.
Well, if that doesn't work out, I think Jeremy and I will go on tour with you, won't we, Jeremy? Yeah, we're
Really,
we
there's an interesting way I do that. In my thing, if you're working like as an agent or a manager, you actually have to pay me.
Yeah.
So if you want to come on the road, we're covered.
All right, sure, fair enough. Mark McConnell, his life in storybook fashion. You have got the guitar, so Jeremy's saying, yeah, let's you get that guitar.
All right.
And when Dave Newton was here, I kind of sang over him, but you can whatever.
Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
You can sing along with me.
Well,
I saw that job
you haven't
security.
seen the tape. So,
I call it job security.
yeah, that's right. That's right. I'll enhance your
I
career.
obviously can't do what you do. So.
We're going to back the camera up there, and Jeremy says you're all right. Mark McConnell, take it away.
I figured since it was Christmas and we've got a little one here that is Aiden. Is that it?
Aiden,
See, I even got the name.
Boy, you're psychic.
I'm usually really bad at that. This is one that a Gene Autry song, since we were talking about cowboy music before. There was Dasher and Dancer and Prancer and Vixen, Comet and Cupid and Donner and Blitzen. But do you recall the most famous reindeer of all? Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose, and if you ever saw it, you would even say it glows. All of the other reindeer used to laugh and call him names, but they never let poor Rudolph join any reindeer games. Well, and one foggy Christmas Eve, Santa came to say, Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight? Then as the reindeer loved him and shouted out their glee, Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, well, you'll go down in history.
Yes, all right, crowd. Solid holiday favorite. Sit down here real quick, Mark. We're going to dismiss you, and we appreciate you being aboard.
Well, I've been dismissed before.
Well, I know. I've seen your grade average. Sit down here. I want to tell you that Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, although it's linked in classic Christmas time fun, it's actually just a Chicago ad man who came up with that, and the world bought it. It's just a marketing tool for one of the stores. Carrie Christensen knows everything. She'd know this. So it began in Chicago, and suddenly every kid thinks it's like, well, that's as old as the hills. It's kind of a modern day marketing man said, let's do it. And it's a new episode of The Crazy Ones next Friday. All right.
Great.
Anything else for us?
No, just thank you for having me. I appreciate the time.
Mark McConnell, kids. All right. There it is. All right. Way to get out of here. As Ronald Reagan, don't leave yet, young man. Now, you haven't seen our reviews. Stay in the frame.
Oh, yeah,
Do you see somebody walk off the Reagan ranch till he's dismissed?
yes.
All right. All right.
Because Nancy was kicking his ass.
Well, yeah, try not. All right, Mark McConnell, we're going to get out of here. This Chooch, we're at 64 South Grove, as you know. Chooch's Chat Room, special edition right there, holiday sensation. Mark McConnell, January 25th, right here at Chooch's. We'll see everybody. Take care.
Come on down.